Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to the Get Ready with God podcast. My name is Julie Taylor, and I am your host, and I am not God, obviously. An expert. I'm not. I'm not even a scriptorian. I'm literally just a girl sitting in front of a microphone, hoping God is real. The Get Ready with God podcast is the daily devotional podcast to help you see divinity in every day. So we started this conversation when we talked a little bit about frantic energy and choosing what we pick up. Like, people will serve you frantic energy all day, every day, but it's our choice to pick it up and engage with it. And I've been thinking about that, and I've been thinking about how do we decide what to pick up, what to engage in, what to use our capacity for. And as I was thinking about this, the first thing I thought is the best way to choose what to pick up is to have a relationship with God and to involve divinity in that decision of really getting clear on your own values and priorities. Yes. In addition to that, or maybe deeper than that, is learning what energies come from divinity and which ones never do. And there's some that like fall in a gray area for me, like fear. The fear thing is an interesting one to me because I remember when I was talking to my brother once about leaving faith completely, and he had done the same, but then he had also like returned. And so I would talk to him a lot about this stuff. And I said, do you think that I only engage in faith because I'm too afraid to take the jump out and to not? And he said, well, there's a reason you're afraid to jump off a cliff too. Like, not all fear is bad. Sometimes fear is guiding you. And I've always really appreciated that perspective because I think we can kind of get to a place where like, no fear. And if it's fear, it's not God. But like, there's a reason sometimes why you're afraid to do things, and it's because it would end badly. And so this is a longer conversation, obviously, but there are certain things that I just don't think are ever from God. For me, I'm not clear on the fear one. The fear is a gray area for me, but I don't think that God ever works in frantic energy. Like, that's why we had that conversation where I don't think that God will ever serve me frantic, panic, desperate energy. I don't think that's how God operates. I don't think that's how we're meant to operate. And if that is the energy being served, I don't think that it's something that I need to pick up. I think I can write that off as like, hey, this is not something that I want to engage in, is feeling that frantic panic. It's different than urgency. I think there can be divine urgency. But the next thing that I was thinking about specifically this week was shame. There's a lot of new conversations around shame. I think shame is historically one of the things that people hold against religion the most, and as they should. Like, a lot of us grew up in very shame motivated ways, like not just through religion, but like at home. Like, fear and shame were kind of the drivers to get us to do things as children. But the thing about fear and shame is that there's an expiration date on them. You can control people through fear and shame for a little bit, but then there's an expiration and it does not work because it's so negative and actually is tearing someone's psyche down. It's tearing their soul down. So that's obviously not sustainable. And we do it the same with ourselves. Like, we'll try to motivate ourselves to do what we want through shame, and we'll spiral and we'll shame ourselves into submission. I've definitely learned firsthand that that has an expiration date. It works for a minute. And so because you get that initial validation, it's tempting to be like, okay, well, even if this is bad, even if it's ruining my soul, at least it's getting me to do what I want to do. It's tricky because you'll think it works. It might give you one desired outcome, but it's coming at the cost of something else, like killing your soul. But also, it's just not sustainable and it causes harm. There's a lot here, obviously. I don't think I need to convince anyone listening to this podcast that shame is bad. I think that's kind of a universally understood concept now. But something that I kind of realized this week in some of my studying was that shame, I think, is one of those things that you can universally put in a box of not from God. And that's confusing if you have been programmed to think that guilt and shame are tools of God. If you were taught to think that when you feel shame, that is an indicator, a divine indicator to you to change your behavior, then it can be tricky to reprogram and think shame is actually not a divinely given feeling. And this is different from a remorse or a godly sorrow. I do think that sometimes we do the wrong thing and we feel badly about that. But when you experience true sorrow or remorse, that is different. That's not shame. Usually that kind of sorrow or remorse can be a motivator to then take the right action, to repair, to return to a place of alignment and making a better choice going forward. And that's all positive. Turning back to God, changing your behavior in a positive way, that's all positive. Shame, however, doesn't drive positive change. It drives further disconnect, isolation, and self-hate. No positive action. When you're ashamed of something, you don't even try to fix it. You might try to control the perception of it or control the narrative, but you don't really try to repair because you're experiencing too much shame to even take accountability or acknowledge that you did the thing, right? So it usually drives us to try to deceive ourselves or others or pull away or disconnect from other people and from God. So I'm in a place right now in my life where how I'm living is not sustainable to me. I'm okay, but I don't like to live the way that I'm living at the intensity that I'm living. I'm very busy and I'm very depleted and I'm doing a lot of things and they're all good things. And I don't think there's anything that I necessarily want to take off the list. And so instead, I'm trying to really be intentional about how I'm doing the list. If I can't change the list, then I can change how I'm doing the list. Part of that has been really getting specific on the energy and the stuff that I want to pick up. So that's kind of what triggered this whole thing of hey, a lot's being thrown at me. Which things am I going to pick up? Which tasks am I going to pick up? Yes. But further than that, which energy am I going to pick up? Because if we're always serving the most frantic deadline, we're never serving the most important deadline because very rarely do urgency and importance align. We just will continually serve the most frantic, demanding thing. But we have to acknowledge that that is usually not on our terms. And so then we can end a whole week where we've done nothing that we actually feel called to do, feel correct in doing, feel aligned with, feel that we value, feel that we should prioritize because instead we've served everyone else's frantic energy and that's what we've picked up. And I just don't want to do that. So I'm trying to get really intentional about what am I doing and how am I doing it. The path I've decided to follow through this process is getting clear on what is God motivated and what is not. And frantic energy, never from God, which is different than urgency, okay? Shame, never from God, which is different than remorse or sorrow and accountability. Those are the two that I really have decided I can safely say no, that's never from God. So if that's the energy being served to me, I'm not going to pick it up. I hope something that we could maybe do together is being really, really intentional about what we pick up, what we're willing to pick up. For me, the way that I'm trying to figure out what I will pick up and what I will not is getting really clear on what can come from God and what can't. And shame and frantic energy are two of the things that are being served to me quite a bit that I've decided that I'm not going to pick up on. And the last thing that I'll say in the vein of shame, the voice in your head is never going to be divinely there if it's tearing yourself apart. So truly, there's a difference between taking personal accountability and saying, I screwed up. I could do better. And I would involve God in those decisions of hey, show me where and what I can do better. If it's from God, it will feel safe. It will feel like a loving correction. You'll feel supported in it. And even if it's painful because there's some sorrow or some remorse there or some grief about this thing has caused harm or it's brought me to a place that I don't want to be, it won't feel like you should run and hide and lose hope and never show your face again. It will not feel like that if it's from God. So as we look for divinity in every day, I also invite you to join me in looking for divine guidance in what to pick up and what to separate yourself from. And I really think that if we do that, we'll move away from things that inherently destroy us. Truly, that sounds really dramatic, but I've been destroyed by shame before, and it's never come from God. So get really clear on what your personal experience is with divinity, with prayer, with all of these things. And if you've been made to feel ashamed and terrible and hopeless, I would plead with you to refuse the idea that that was God-given. So there's a fun little light reprogramming for you on shame and divine guidance and what that feels like. And it feels different for everyone. So get to know how God talks to you and what that feels like. But I promise you, it's not through shame. Love you so much. Bye.